never met someone who deserves the day the way that you do. Joseph, it's time to get ready and the spotlight's shining down upon you. Joseph, so be fast, hold from. I'm on my way, yeah, here it comes. And I'm delivering a wish to you, so get ready, from every peak and valley they're telling you to get ready, 'cause here it comes. It's on the way. It's a celebration across the nation.
Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. This is me, comedian George Wallace, the new Mr. Vegas. I'm here with you tonight. I'm famous. But let me tell you something. Your host tonight, Joseph Jaffe, he's not famous. He's not famous at all. But that's all we can do for you tonight. That's the best we can do. You know, Joseph is like Jon Stewart wannabe. He's like a Howard Stern wannabe. He is not famous, but he's your host, okay? Maybe he'll do good tonight. This is what you paid for. This is what you get. So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you want to show him some love. Please welcome the not-so-famous Mr. Joseph Jaffe. Make some noise.
We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me undies. We undies might have sounded differently, right?
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's an after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this too. It's a real service to the community.
What a great organization and a show that offers hope, optimism, creative solutions, entertainment.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph. It's your gift to the universe and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
Listen, I might be... Rob is clapping. Rob is clapping in the background. I'm going to just do the George Costanza line, which is like, all right, I'm out of here. You know, just end on a high. As I said to him, it's all downhill from here. I'm excited because we're going to talk about finding inner peace, because there are all these voices, all these noises in my head, and they just won't go away. How do I silence them? How do I put them out of their misery? Maybe I just need to embrace them, you know, as the different personalities, the different sides to me. Rob Dube is my guest today. He will be coming on the show, and we'll be talking about, you know, mindfulness. And I have to say, it's been a tremendous journey to learn about myself, to become more self-aware, to sometimes be in the moment, to recognize moments, to label moments, saboteurs and sages. Some might have called it woo-woo, but I just, you know, I love it. I love it. And I'm learning how to be a better man, a better coach, a better father, a better husband. I really hope that my wife and children are not watching this right now, because they'd probably disagree. But anyway, let's get on with the show. It's 2024, and I've been starting with my why statement that I developed. As a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever changed. Why forever changed? Well, that's the title of my latest book, How a Global Pandemic Changed My Direction, My Purpose, and My Life. And I even created a little forever changed GPT where you can actually go and interact with it. And it will ask you questions like, if today was the last day of your life, would it have been worthwhile? So having a little bit of fun with AI along the way. As many of you know, in June of last year, I became a coach with EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's something that Rob and myself, and quite frankly, the co-author of his book, Gino Wickman, have in common. In fact, Gino started the whole thing and wrote the book Traction, and Rob and Gino have co-authored their new book, Shine, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, as I've said to you many times, I want you to love me, but if you don't love me, I'd prefer you hate me. The only thing I don't want is for you to have no opinion of me, to be completely apathetic or indifferent to me. So if you love me or hate me, if you feel anything towards me, please subscribe to my show, to my channel, bit.ly/subscribe to the show. You will make me very, very happy. And in the mornings these days, because I don't create enough content, I need to create more content. Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do a virtual coffee in the Collective Cafe. I've had a lot of fun lately. It's probably I would say the tide highlight of my day, tied with speaking with Rob in a few minutes when he comes on. But this was a session that I did on psychological safety. I'm just learning so much about so many things that honestly, I just had no clue about. And what else have we been doing? Well, this was actually an article of Gino's where he spoke about after 2,000 sessions, he's realized that there is only one thing and only one thing that indicates success for a small, medium growing business, and that is a strong leadership team. And I love the fact that he came up with 7 tenets, but the 7th one was love. Love. It's so powerful to be able to say to someone, I love you. I love what I do. Love for each other, not like, right? What did Facebook do? They told us to like. They downgraded our love to like. We need to love. And just the other day, did a whole session on Elmo's tweet. I actually want to know what Rob thinks about this. Elmo just was checking in just to say, how's everybody doing? And the answer was, not good, Elmo. Not good at all. One more thing to tell you is we've been doing live book reads actually this week and every week thereafter. The 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive and Crucial Conversations. Guess what? We're going to be doing a live read of Shine at some point later. Surprise, Rob. We're going to be doing a live read of Shine at some point this year as well. And if you can't make it live, please go ahead and just subscribe to the pod version of this at bit.ly/collective cafe to go. But now it is time for our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy, as you know, is always connected with my guest, an homage to my guest. And this one is called Peace. You know, one of the things that when Gino went out and started talking to business owners and leadership teams and said, well, what's the benefit? What was the number one benefit? What was the most surprising thing about installing an operating system and becoming vision, traction, healthy, and discipline and accountability? And you might have thought that they would have said things like profitability, top line, bottom line, middle line, sideline, diagonal line growth, or competitive advantage, crushing the opposition, or the ability to talk about low turnover and all these hard metrics, these data points, the sterile, sometimes inanimate or innate metrics. But the one that surprised everyone was the fact that people said, peace, peace of mind. Peace of mind is part of the deal. Peace in terms of being able to quieten down all those voices, all the noises. Peace in terms of getting a good night's sleep, not waking up in a cold sweat at 2 a.m, less worrying. Peace when you went to that beautiful Bahamian island and cabana boy or cabana girl or cabana person gave you that Mai Tai. Peace. Isn't that what we're all striving towards in this world? To find peace, inner peace, outer peace, to be able to create a moment in time when time almost stands still, time freezes, when you want to just be able to be in that moment, be present, and just enjoy the beautiful aspect of the fact that there is just no distraction, no noise, no music, just the music of your soul, the music of your heart, the soundtrack of your life, peace. And so now it's time to talk to an author of peace, or someone who will tell you how to find your inner peace. My guest, Rob Dube. Rob Dube is the co-founder of Image One, visionary and CEO of the 10 disciplines for managing and maximizing your energy, and co-founder and podcast host of Entrepreneurial Leap. He's also the author of Do Nothing, host of the Do Nothing Retreat, and host of the Leading with Genuine Care podcast. Through his work, Rob challenges business leaders and entrepreneurs to look inward with mindfulness and meditation by sharing his own leadership journey. Let's welcome him on the show, Rob Dube. I told you, it's only downhill from here.
I'm speechless, Joseph. I have to tell you, that was unbelievable. Congratulations to what you've put together here. And I'm inspired and humbled to be with you, I have to tell you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that really does mean a lot to me coming from you. So I'm just going to do more stuff for you then. So I've been playing around with AI, by the way. I asked AI to come up with a song called Shine, which was this. I don't know how the lyrics will be because I was playing a bit. I've actually trained it how to sing like me, which means sing poorly. But this is the song. We can listen to it and see if it sounds like anything, if it makes any sense. Been hiding in the shadow. Still trying to get it to like. I'm ready to let it out finally to sing my own song. So that's,
I was waiting for you to start singing along with the woman.
That actually was my voice on 1,000 RPMs. So, clearly not very well. Do nothing. The concept of do nothing in your bio. What does it mean to actually do nothing? Because I think in my mind, like we always have to be doing something. The prototypical cigarette in our hand, the drink in our hand at a party, and like not knowing where to put our hands, etc. Now we have to be on a phone the whole time. It seems to me that it probably takes a lifetime to be able to master the act of actually doing nothing.
So for sure, let me provide just a little bit of context. So I took on a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice over 20 years ago. And I started attending silent retreats that were between 7 and 10 days in length. And I had a group of peers at the time in an organization called EO that were curious about what I was doing. And one of them said, "What do you do when you go there? Do you just sit around, do nothing?" And that kind of took on a life of its own. But essentially, it's exactly what it does sound like. And that is just being in stillness for some period of time with nothing to do and just being alone with our thoughts, which for many is quite difficult, actually for most. There's a wonderful quote that I always like to share with people by the best-selling author Anne Lamott. And she says, "My mind is like a bad neighborhood. I try to never go there alone." Most people can relate to that. So that's oftentimes why we can't sit in stillness and do nothing. It's just very challenging. And so there's the backdrop to the idea behind do nothing.
Is there, I think like, one of the things I've always said about myself is I enjoy my own company. I know they say the first sign of madness.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, what do they say?
I can see you like laughing, like walking around laughing at an idea you have in your head or something.
Maniacal. But don't you know there's that thing that says the first sign of madness is talking to yourself. The second sign of madness is responding.
I always heard that only smart people talk to themselves, and only people that talk to themselves have that theory.
Exactly. They used to call me a legend in my own mind. So anyway,
there you go.
But this idea of actually being still with yourself and enjoying your own company, there's a lot more to that. And there's I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about this idea of why are we so uncomfortable in our own company?
Yeah. Well, back to what I originally said, I think it's hard to be alone with our thoughts. And then we have a very busy life, our lives these days of modern life. And so that can cause a challenge at times to just be still. And, I happen to have a meditation practice, as I mentioned, but there are other ways to be still. I mean, you can journal, and you can sit in contemplation. You could pray if you have a religion that is important to you. The whole idea is just being still and finding time to do that, so you can allow for your mind to settle and your body to rejuvenate. And most at this point, I think, no, but I think it's worth mentioning that our minds and our bodies are connected. And so when your mind is in a calm place, your body is also in a calmer place.
Healthy body, healthy mind, and
or healthy mind, healthy body.
Well, I was going to say chicken and egg. Which one came first? Which one did come first? Does it matter?
Yeah, I think we're all so unique beings, such unique beings, that we really have to tune in to ourselves, and that's part of what happens when you find time for stillness. When you can sit in stillness for 30 minutes, you start to notice things going on, not just in your mind, but also in your body, the sensations. You may have thoughts that connect to a sensation that you're having somewhere in your body, be it your chest, your stomach, your shoulders. That's usually how people can more easily connect with the idea that these two are connected. And then once we realize that, it's bringing awareness to what's going on, and that's how we can make change, so we can have a healthier life.
I really love where you're coming from, and I was listening to Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and I forget who the guest was. I wish I remembered her name, but she spoke about this idea of the spidey sense, your gut feel, your intuition. Sometimes it is the butterfly in the tummy. Sometimes it is goosebumps, etc. That it actually physiologically makes sense. This is your body reacting to a past, not a past life, but something from your past that is directing you and informing you. And so the message are the sensations are real. Do not ignore them. Learn to understand them, to identify them, to react to them, and integrate them into your life.
Yeah, I agree. And it may not even be from your past. It may just be a knowingness that you have. And so, we write a bit about that in the book Shine. And Gino actually shared a story of a time when he was looking at getting into a new business, and he said to a confidant, "This feels so right to me. I'm so excited. That's how I know it's right." And the confidant said to him, "That isn't necessarily the right message. The right message is just a knowingness, which doesn't usually attach itself to some dopamine hit. And a dopamine hit can mean it's so right or it's so not right." We love that as entrepreneurs, especially. We love that dopamine hit. We're always looking for it, whether we realize it or not. But where you can really tap in, as you were mentioning before, is to a knowingness. And it's where it's hard for me to even describe it.
So is it safe to say you'll know it when you feel it, that knowingness?
I believe so. And it's time where we get out of our head. These days we're so data and fact driven. We're so in our heads. And I think it's such a wonderful time to not ignore the data. I think the data is important. The facts are important. They always have been. But now's a really special time in our history where we can start to shift and get more in tune with us. Sometimes the data might be telling us this is a good acquisition to make, but there's something inside of us that's saying, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. Well, maybe you go make the acquisition. Maybe the acquisition ends up being successful, but you're miserable. If you had listened to yourself, maybe you don't make the acquisition, but you're at peace. Which would you prefer?
You know, it is, I was going to say something a lot less eloquent and wax less lyrically. I was going to say, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. But how, you know, so really my follow up with you is this idea of when you feel it, when you experience it, when you know something is right or not right, typically it's the ignoring. So why do we ignore the feeling? Why do we downplay it or minimize it or marginalize it or pretend it's not there, or, you know, even be able to relegate it because it isn't the data point. It isn't the hard left brain data point. Why do we ignore?
Let me answer that question by providing context. So in the book, we write about 3 discoveries that Gino had. Discovery number 1 is I am driven. So entrepreneurs are driven. You and I can talk more about that in a moment. Discovery number 2 is decisions are made from love or fear. And discovery number 3 is you can be driven and have peace. Let me go to discovery number 2. Decisions are made from love or fear. You asked me, why do we ignore it? Because we have fear. Fear equals ego. Ego can be good, by the way. I'm not saying ego isn't a good thing. Ego has its place. But in business, way too often, our ego or our fear gets in the way of the decisions that we're making. And so we go off and we do that acquisition, to go back to the simple example that I was using, because we're afraid we'll miss out. We're afraid of the opportunity. We're afraid that the success, the notoriety, whatever it is you think you're looking for, you won't have it in any other way. So you go ahead and do it, and then your life is miserable.
So love and fear, is it very binary, I suppose? You know, are there other things, or is it just kind of which path do you choose? You know, road, what did Yogi Berra say? If you come to a fork in the road, take it. Do you choose the love road or the fear road?
Well, I think it's an everyday practice. And I wish I could say everything's always black and white in life, but it's not. That's not life. That's not the way things are. We want them to be so bad because we want to control every situation and be safe and secure and not have any sort of angst, but that just isn't the way it is. And when we can accept that, we can become more at peace with when we are faced with a decision. And by the way, entrepreneurs are faced with 10 times more decisions in a day than just a regular everyday person. And a lot of those decisions are hard ones. And so all you could do is pause, bring awareness to, why am I making this decision and where is it coming from? Am I coming from love? Am I coming from my heart? And that's just the word that we use. We encourage you to find a word that resonates with you more. And if that resonates, great. But are you coming from, as we say, your true self, your authentic self? If your authentic self is saying, I don't want the hassle of that acquisition, but I want the ego boost of everyone knowing I just made an acquisition, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And all too often, that is exactly what happens.
You know, my first boss at Nando's Chicken Land, the Taste of Portugal, which was my first job out of college, he always said he was motivated more by the fear of failure than the sweet taste of success. So there obviously are and it can take a lifetime to master, that a little bit of fear can go a long way if you can channel it, if you can harness it. But if it overpowers you, then I suppose it becomes something that you reference, which is called the entrepreneurial nightmare. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about this concept of the entrepreneurial nightmare. You know, the concept that you have to be a masochist to be an entrepreneur. How do you turn the nightmare into a dream? Help me wake up, Rob.
So you're referencing the book Entrepreneurial Leap, and that's Gino and my other company, where we have an entrepreneurial academy. And yes, there's the entrepreneurial nightmare where you wake up one day and you look at that you just created a job for yourself and 1,000,001 hassles, and you don't even like the widgets that you sell anymore, which you loved at the beginning. And the whole thing has become an absolute absolute mess and you can't sleep, you're worried all the time, you have employee problems, you're not clear about your vision, all these kinds of things. That's the nightmare. And we don't want you to have that nightmare. We want you to have the dream. And the dream is where you take some time and bring awareness to what's most important to you in your life and why you're doing the things that you're doing. And when you have absolute clarity around that, then the rest will fall in place. You know, you did mention this thing about the chicken person who works off of fear, motivated by fear. And I would say to anybody out there who believes that's an important motivator for them, I would ask you to practice shifting it and focus being motivated on success and what that might look like for you in the totality of your life. Because being motivated by fear and having the best chicken place in the world doesn't mean you're going to be happy. I want you to have the best chicken place in the world. I want you to grow and have the best employees and the best culture and the best of everything while you have peace. And that is possible. But you won't get it if you're motivated by fear. How does fear bring you peace? We're not being chased by saber-toothed tigers anymore. So are we running around hiding behind every rock and tree to make sure we're successful? Now, life doesn't need to be that way. We have the great opportunity at this time of our history to reshape the way we think and to see the world in a different place. And I would argue, and so would Gino, and this is what we write in the book, that you will actually be more successful. Your decisions will take you down different paths, but those paths will be more in alignment with what you truly are looking for. And there's no mountain to climb, by the way. We always like to share that. We're all fearful. We're climbing the mountain. When I get to the top of the mountain, I'll just, then I can breathe. No, there's no mountain. There's no mountain to climb. Every day is a new success for you. And you don't have to be fearful while you're going about it.
You know, I would say, ain't no mountain too high, ain't no valley too low, but I won't. It brings up this, first of all, here's what I hear from you, Rob, that there is a dynamism, there is a fluidity, and there's a transience in terms of the nightmare and the dream state. They can flow. What began as a dream can become a nightmare. This isn't a point in time. This is your life. This is a journey. And so, it made me think of this idea of reconciling inner peace with entrepreneurial ambition, right? We're always, as entrepreneurs, we're fueled with this hunger for more success, more innovation, more market share, more growth. So how do you reconcile this innate ambition with the tranquility required, for inner peace?
Yeah.
What is enough and when is enough?
Well, it isn't even about what is enough. I can't even answer that question for anybody. You just know when it is. But going back to the 3 discoveries, discovery number 1 is I am driven. And it's important for you as an entrepreneur to know you are driven. I'm sure that doesn't come as a surprise to you, but what might come as a surprise to you, or it may just bring a light bulb moment, is that because of your driven nature, you go hard, you go fast, and it's in your DNA. And so you're going so fast and you look around and nobody can keep up with you and you don't understand it. Your family can't keep up with you. Your friends can't keep up with you. And your employees can't keep up with you. And they're all looking at you like you're nuts. And so you start to feel like you're nuts, but it doesn't make sense to you. But the truth is you're different. And when you start to begin to understand, I am different, I'm driven, and I can either leave a black trail behind me, which is what most entrepreneurs end up doing. It's a mess. Or I can harness my driven nature and be truly aware of it and notice, okay, this is my driven nature. This is what's happening right now. Everybody can't keep up with me. I got to bring myself back, bring them up as best as I can, get on the same page, slow down a little, which is okay. Got to slow down to speed up. Can't always go 1,000,000 miles an hour. And so just having that great awareness of the ebb and flow of where you need to be will help to begin to create the inner peace, because a lot of the disruption in your life you're creating on your own. You just don't realize it. It's not your employee's fault. It's not your family's fault. It's you. It's your inability to notice how your driven nature is causing havoc all around you.
So true, which is recognizing that we may not be of this world as entrepreneurs. We may be a special type, but we still live in this world. And the relationships in this world, both in our company, in our lives, in our communities, our local church, our family, our friends, it's paramount. So let's talk about also this, let's continue along this journey and these paradoxes. So let's first of all talk about control, this illusion of control, presumably with entrepreneurship, where, there's this I guess all entrepreneurs on day one are the ultimate control freaks because they have all the control in the world. They have to, as we know, delegate and elevate to their unique ability. But I want to talk more about the mindfulness, this idea of we're praised as entrepreneurs for being in control, for having so much control, even self-control. But your discipline suggests a level of surrender, to the inner journey. So can you speak to this idea of letting go rather than tightening your grip on control or the perception of control as you go through your entrepreneurial journey and indeed become more successful?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack there in what you've said. So, the first thing I would ask the listener to consider is, are you in control?
Right.
You think you are, but you really aren't. None of us are. We're not in control of anything. So let go. Okay? Because the harder you hold on, the tighter you hold on, the harder it is. What comes to mind for me, and I want to read something over here on my other screen that I think is relevant at this point as it relates to control. And we write about a friend of ours named Justin Breen, who works with entrepreneurs, and made a comment to us that he had yet to meet an entrepreneur who hasn't experienced at least one of the following: bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, heightened levels of anxiety, depression, traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. And Gino and I added a fifth one: addiction. Okay. So
bingo. Oh, sorry. I just hit bingo on my card. That was, what do I win, Rob? What do I win?
You're not the only one who reacts that way, by the way. Everybody seems to relate to it. So 2 things on this note. First, where's the control in any of that? Okay. Yeah. There isn't any. That's number 1. Number 2 is, because those things have happened, you want control. So you think by being an entrepreneur, you're going to get control. But what causes so much angst and anxiety is you realize all I'm trying to do is get control, and I can't get control, and whether you think you have it or not. And so it's about letting go and understanding that, these organizations that we build are filled with humans and problems and their lives and products that don't go right, whether it's software or, physical products. And that's just all part of it. You just try to do your best to get the best out of all of it without trying to over control all of it, because you will make yourself crazy if you haven't already. And I would say, to your point about mindfulness, that is where mindfulness can really play a big role in your life. So we write about 10 disciplines in our book, and we teach these disciplines as part of our company, the 10 disciplines. And one of the disciplines, discipline number 4, is be still. And this is where we encourage our entrepreneurial community to find 30 minutes and sit in stillness every day. And you and I spoke about meditation earlier, and I shared that it doesn't need to be meditation. You can journal, you can contemplate, you can pray, anything that seems to fit you best. Point is, find time to be stillness. What I'll say that it's not is moving, because moving is not stillness. So when you go for a walk, that is not stillness. When you go do your workouts and that's where you find your Zen, that's great. Keep doing that. Keep finding your Zen during your workouts. but being still is different. Again, it's a time to allow your body and mind to settle and rejuvenate.
Hey, can I get some credit for the fact that I had be still
That's pretty cool that you
my
had
B
that.
role?
You had that.
I don't have all 10. Ironically,
Okay.
I just picked 1 or 2 that really connected with me and that I wanted to know more of. And it's funny that was the first
good.
one that you went to. I got nothing else. No.
I'm impressed with 1, so you've already exceeded my expectations.
well, I'll tell you, one thing I do that speaks to another one is I always try and find a quote for my guest, and this was the one that I found. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Believe it or not, this was actually from Aristotle, who is an expert EOS implementer. I don't know if he ever worked on your business, but he was apparently very philosophical at the best of times.
I feel like I've drawn on his wisdom from time to time.
He is, and he's an expert. So he went from professional to certified. So that was, he went through all his. But let's talk about this idea, to thine own self be true. Talk a little, and I love, by the way, this quote, right, which is which I think is Oscar Wilde. Although I've often confused it with Dr. Seuss. Be yourself, everyone else is taken.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. Let's spend a bit of time talking about knowing yourself, trying to actually, not only understand who you are or who you were meant to be, but actually being comfortable with that person.
Yeah. Okay. So first, discipline number 3 is know thyself. So thank you for having that queued up. And that's where we encourage our entrepreneur friends to be you 100% of the time, 24/7, 365. Let your freak flag fly. So Joseph, I feel you are you. You're not trying to pretend to be anybody else but who you are from the second I met you.
You just called me a freak, and to which I say thank you.
Yes, absolutely, because being the freak is what's so cool and so unique. We all have this uniqueness within us, yet we decide to conform to societal's expectations of us from wherever that came from in our lives, whether it was way back when or not so far long ago. And so what we're encouraging you to do is be your true self. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, the simple way to dip your toe into this is to do a personality profiling tool. There's a million of them. Do them all. It's fun. I know EOS likes Colby. I always like the Enneagram and everyone in between, right? So go do those. Every time you learn a little bit more about yourself, you can go and ask the people closest to you in your life. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do you notice about me? Okay, this is dipping your toe into the water. Then you could start to get a little bit deeper. You might go do things like going to therapy. You can start to learn more about yourself. And therapy is very well accepted in society nowadays. People joke about having a therapist and what's going on in their therapy sessions and all those kinds of things. So there's just so many ways to tap into it. And every way and every time you do it, you start to understand you a little bit better. And then our goal for you is to eventually be your true self. And we define your true self as the most authentic version of who you are, which is unshaped by societal expectations, professional roles, or social masks. It is the core identity that remains constant beneath the various hats that we all wear in different areas of our life. And I'll just end here on this. It's typically buried behind your ego, personality in the suit of armor that you've developed over your lifetime, often due to some type of pain in your life or trauma or conditioning. So that's what we want you to work on, deal with, and let your freak flag fly.
So, Rob, I'm going to ask you a very direct question. I'm not known for being succinct, but this is in 3 words. Who are you?
Well, it may not surprise you, and it won't surprise those that know me what the answer is. My answer to that question is I am nothing. I am everything.
I did not expect that, but you're going to get the air horn for that. You are nothing and you are everything. How long did it take you to find and figure that out?
I don't know the chronological. I can't answer that in terms of time. What is time anyway? We could go really deep here. But I realized at some point that I'm ever changing. Every moment I'm living and dying. Every moment of my life, of all of our lives, we're living and dying. We're changing. We're constantly changing beings. And while we have some consistency to some things, there are many things that are just constant, and that is that we change. And when I think about it for myself, I truly believe that really at the end of the day, I'm nothing when it comes, and I don't mean that in a self-deprecating way, actually, not at all. It's not, I'm walking around with my head down, oh, I'm nothing. No, I do believe this person has something to contribute to the world. But at the end of the day, I see it much broader in that I am everything. I am connected to everything and everyone. True love, pure love. And when we can all find that within ourselves, not much else matters.
You know, I've often thought when I've reflected on myself or on myself, I've always taken a position which I suppose could be confused as being very self-absorbed or even egotistical. But I've always believed in the idea that when I die, the world dies, that everything is coming through and being seen through my eyes. And yet I'm also insignificant. I'm also just a speck of a grain of sand or a speck of dust, or I see the enormity of the universe at times. And it's a tension, and it's not one or the other. And I move through cycles. I certainly don't think I'm better or more important than anyone else. But I do sometimes feel like I have a purpose and I have a role, and it isn't just to check a box and be one of many. It is to be one of one. And I'm not afraid to say that. I wonder, are people afraid to do that, to actually be able to say, I am important, I am significant, I might be the most significant person in the world, or at least in my world. Where's the line? Where do you stop? Where do you start? Or does it matter?
Well, yes, it doesn't matter. I think that there is no line. That's what's important for our analytical minds to begin to understand. There are no concrete answers when it comes to this. We have lots of philosophies around it. What's the meaning of life? I mean, that has not been solved, and it will not be solved, at least in my lifetime. And so the point here is to enjoy the moment, being in the moment, enjoy being in the moment, because it's all you have. I could, after this wonderful engagement with you, which I am completely in the present moment and having no thoughts of anything else going on in my life, when we're done, I could go outside and go for a walk across the street and sadly get hit by a car, and potentially my body would no longer be useful in this world in the sense that it is now. That's how our lives are so fragile, and we forget about that. We forget about how fragile this life is. But when we can come to the present moment and bask in how beautiful it is in this moment, even in difficult times, which isn't easy. It isn't easy. I'm not suggesting any of this is easy, but these are important concepts in my view to spend time on. And that's part of, I think, where we started, which is know thyself. Start to understand who you are and what this whole thing's all about for you. And you sound like you've done that.
Well, I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Dube's last interview ever. God forbid.
I hope not, but maybe it will be.
Well, just in case, that's just a clip that we can use. We can use for posterity.
I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to go walk outside and cross the road. I'm just going to wait till later.
You at this point, do nothing. Just do nothing.
Yes,
be still.
I will do that. I will do that.
It's going to be your be still, and then the comet comes and crashes on, and you were like, I should have gone for the walk. Let's talk about identity, and so much, and so many people have head trash and imposter syndrome and trying to figure out who they are and being different people for, different versions of themselves for different people. So I tried to visualize it, and this is the best I could come up with, is the concept of the innie and the outie, right? Which is, there's your inner self and your outer self. And I wonder how you see these two personas. What happens when they are different and fractured? Are they in fact the same? Are they the same, or are they different expressions of essentially the true self? So how do you think of your inner self and your outie, your outer self?
Well, our outie, as you like to say it, our outer self, is an expression of who we want the world to see us as. And I would argue that your inner self, your true self, is who you really are. And most of us just don't take the time to tap into that, to spend time on that true, authentic version of who you are. For example, in entrepreneurship, we get very tied into the identity of running a company, having a company, our role at the company. It starts to mean everything to us. Having a family can be an identity piece to it, but that's not who you are. You are not Rob who has a family. I have a family, but that's not who I am. I have a company, but that's not who I am. But we're grasping onto something because we want to be identified in some way. And that's a decision that we're making based on something along the way that we decided would help us feel good, help us feel maybe important. I think entrepreneurship is so prime to hear this message because, for example, when you exit a business that you've been running for many years, and you have many employees who you're the go-to for them. Their lives have depended, according to your theory, on you for so many years. I mean, how many entrepreneurs do you hear say, yes, we have 50 employees, so I have a lot of families that I'm responsible for. Oh, really? You're responsible for those families? No. Yeah, they're responsible for themselves, and they got to find their way through their life. And you can try to create as wonderful as a work environment as you would like to help enhance their life, but you're not responsible for them. But you've decided that's your identity, and you decide to put that weight on your shoulder, and that becomes who you are as you make your way through this world. But that's not who you are. It isn't. And so this is, again, these are the lessons that I think are important for us to learn. I started on a point about exiting your business. I want to come back to that. So it's been shown, and there's a wonderful book by Bo Burlingham, and it's gonna come to me, Finish Big. And the book, the author Bo Burlingham interviewed people who successfully exited their business, and what he found from them is they were lost. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They got depressed. They had the big exit. They had the money. They had the things, all that, but they just didn't know what to do with themselves. And they really just wanted to get back into business. Why? Because they had identity and they needed meaning. And so, there's a great example of how you mentioned identity and how in entrepreneurship, we connect ourselves in that way.
The essence of this idea, again, it goes back to what we were discussing earlier about the goalposts are always shifting, which is how much is enough. You get to the top of the mountain and there is another mountain and another mountain. And I actually did a live book read, one of the book reads that I did a few months ago about what they called the question of questions, the ultimate question. The question of questions is, how do you achieve lasting happiness? Not fleeting, but lasting happiness. And the answer was, there was a matrix because, all good, we all need at least one matrix a day, one 2x2 matrix a day. But this idea was, the rat racer was the person that said, I cannot and do not deserve to be happy today because of tomorrow. One day when I sell the company, I will be happy, but it never happens. And then you've got the hedonistic lifestyle, which is, I'm only going to choose to be happy today and to hell with tomorrow because there may not be a tomorrow. And the answer is, you've got to be happy today and tomorrow. So the happiness today is the bumpy, grindy, twisty, turny journey. and you have to have a purpose. So you got to love the journey and have a purpose. That's the answer to the question of questions.
Mhm.
And it's purpose, right? So there's identity, number one, to your point, Rob, which is who are you? Who has defined who you are? Other people, your peers, what the outside world says, or that inner voice. And then there's what is your purpose? What were you put on this earth to achieve?
I love this. Thank you for bringing this up. I got to get my thoughts straight here because there's so much I want to say.
You're welcome. If you need to collect your thoughts, we can just, as we were doing before, we could just go in. And we're
Thank you. Wow, I'm nothing but wisdom to share now.
Okay. He has also not been hit by a meteor, thank God.
Yeah, I'm still here.
The stage is yours.
There's two things that I want to touch on here. Okay, so the first is this idea of happy and not happy, and are wanting to grasp onto happy and push away not happy. And I'm just using that as a reference. You can insert your own words. And where we can become more easeful, more peaceful, again, pick your word, is when we just understand that whatever's happening is our current experience. And we embrace the experience for exactly what it is. And we are capable of working ourselves through whatever that experience is. But typically as humans, we only want happy. And so we're always running after happy and pushing away not happy. And so that comes to mind for me as it relates to what you were saying there. Now there's this idea of our purpose, which I believe, I've done some thinking on this, and this is just my own thoughts that have arisen around this topic, because it's a big thing to have to decide what my purpose here, like what am I here for? Now I will have you consider, and just consider it, let it kind of roll around, see where it lands. It might not be for you, but your purpose is you are already fulfilling your purpose if you are being mindful and growing on your path each and every day. And truly, I like to use this story I read about about bees who are so focused each and every day on collecting the honey. They're collecting the honey, they're getting the honey, and they think that's their purpose. They think collecting the honey is the purpose. What do you think, Joseph, is their purpose? Do they realize what their real purpose is?
I think their purpose is, because I saw the bee movie, is to basically sustain and protect the world.
They're flying around and pollinating all this other stuff that grows and brings life, but they think it's the honey. So, do you feel like you need to grasp onto the honey? No, you don't need to grasp onto the honey. You're sprinkling all day long. You're sprinkling. Your purpose is all happening all day long in the way that you show up as a compassionate, loving human being. That is your purpose. It's my purpose. It's all of our purposes. I'm not going to change the world necessarily with my widget, my iPhone widget. It changed the world in ways that we go about our lives. Has it made our lives better? Maybe in some ways, and in some ways, not so much. So did we change? Was that the purpose? Did the iPhone widget change? Was that the purpose for Steve Jobs? I don't know. These are just things I think about.
Rob Dube, sweet like honey, and let me tell you.
There you go.
You know, Rob, when I put the show together, March 2020, the world was stuck at home or stuck in general, which is why I talk about today helping people get unstuck. Right at the beginning of this journey, and I thought about hope, positivity, and optimism, which my late mother called HPO. So that prompted, it's not TV, it's HPO. And as I've gone through this journey in terms of being able to create what I call the daily show for business, it really came down to the idea of that beautiful concept of resume virtues and eulogy virtues. That at the end of the day, could I create a show about business, but also get to know the man, the woman, the human, the person, and get to know what makes them tick? So I wonder, what do you think it will say? I apologize for the second reference to your untimely demise, but what will they say about you, Rob, when you are just all around us? The Rob Dube, the aura, the aroma, the sense of Rob Dube. What will they say what would it read on your grave?
It'll just be blank.
In 400 years, perhaps. It will say, you know, I look, I've been taking notes. It will say, there is no line, or it will say, I'm ever changing. I love it. Yeah, I've been taking lots of notes. It will say finish big. It will, I don't know what it will say. It will say, it will be an acronym for BEES. Be the bee, be the bull, be the bees. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't. And it's not important to me. I think what's important to me right now is just being always, as much as I can, in the present moment and being appreciative for that moment. And by the way, that doesn't happen all the time. I can tell you most certainly. But I do my best.
I'm so appreciating this moment. It's hard to believe that our, well, I could say our time is almost up, but you know what? We make our own time, and we decide there is no commercial break. I want to ask you just one more thought, which is, it's easy it's easy to talk to you, and it's easy to talk with you, but a lot of people are struggling with respect to showing weakness or transparency or vulnerability, and being able to kind of talk about these struggles, these conflicts, this journey. It almost is a sign of weakness. What do you say to those people in terms of encouraging them to speak their truth, you know, to be so comfortable with that peace, with their inner self, and as leaders are able to share this and create this culture in a company?
Yeah. You ask great questions, Joseph, because there's so much there. But the first thing that came to my mind is this idea of, what does warrior mean? That's a very masculine term. It evokes for many this idea of fighting and violence. But what I would ask the listening audience to consider is the idea that as a true warrior, you're willing to be open and honest and vulnerable, truly vulnerable, sharing your inner story. What does that do for people? It opens their minds to you being truly human. And when they see you for what you really are, your true self, there's true love that comes through. And that's how we should show up as humans in general in our society. And if you need a reason to relate that to better business performance, it will. It will. I speak from experience. I grew my company for 30 years, Image One, and we spent almost half those years on that premise. And our culture became very well regarded, and our performance very well regarded as well. And we are very proud of the genuine care that we bring to our team members and our clients and all the people that we deal with that are in our stratosphere. Now, I don't run the company, as I mentioned, so I'm not as connected as I used to be, but it still has that philosophy in place, and I hope it will for as long as it's around. And so it can lead to good business results as well, if you need that as a reason, which I hope you don't.
The book is called Shine, How Looking Inward to Your Innie is the key to unlock. No, don't go and type innie, because you're not going to find it. The book is called Shine, How Looking Inward is the key to unlocking true entrepreneurial freedom. There's a real concept of freedom. What is it to be free? Oftentimes we think we're free, but we are absolutely shackled. We're shackled to norms. We're shackled to expectations on the outside of what we should be doing, as opposed to just being able to be present and enjoying that moment, that inner peace, which to me is liberation in its purest sense. Rob, I went and took the self-assessment. This was my score.
I saw it.
And I'm sure you did see it. I was going to put in a, so, you know, I'm on my journey, right? I'm happy where I am, because you know what, tomorrow it could be 64 and the next day 65 and so on and so forth. Is that how I should interpret my
actually
my
I thank you for asking that. First, yes, you are on a journey. We all are, and your score will change. One day it'll be 83, next day it'll be 63, and next day it'll be 93. This is not a scoring system like A, B, C, D. What it does is every single question shines light in an area where light needs to be shined. And now that you know where the light needs to be shined, you bring awareness and attention to it. That's mindfulness. And once you have awareness and attention, you have right effort, and you bring effort to making change. And when you make change, you become a better human. And then you go on with your life and you take the assessment again and you notice, oh, I'm still human. I got better over here, but not over there. I need to shine light on that. Let's go.
You can be driven and have peace.
You can.
There is no paradox here. This is all about, this is an end. This is yin and yang. This is the ability to reconcile the innie and the outie. And there's so much perspective. You know, the funny thing is, just like my personality tests that I've taken, which apparently generally yield NA, you have no personality. For me, everything was extreme. And this is what I've always found actually in my own life, is that I'm extreme left and extreme right. And these two forces are always crashing together at the same time. So I found as I was taking the assessment, I was extremely low or extremely high. And I love it. This is the only way I can exist, and is to be extreme. Choose life, go for it, you know, and never ever settle for second best. And Rob, let me tell you, what a pleasure to meet you. I have to tell you, there's one person in the world that also does not settle for second best, and that is Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
You are Chuck Norris approved. We will be back soon.
That means a lot, I got to tell you.
I mean, let me tell you. And as I said before, you're my best guest ever. So
yeah, of course, I realize that. I'm still not famous either, but hopefully one day I will be.
Again, it's all part of the journey.
Thanks to you is what I mean.
It's all, we will work. We will help each other. Take care, everyone, and I'll be back very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.